Welcome to another edition of SalesTV.live. This is the next in a limited series of Sales TV episodes specifically dedicated to the field of marketing. We're coming to you live from Northeastern University. We're joining a room full of Huskies in their Introduction to Marketing class. So students, once again, thank you for hosting us and letting us be a part of your marketing journey. Today, I am joined by Darryl Praill. With an impressive track record that spans industry giants such as SAP and IBM, to leading roles with organizations like SiteBrand and VanillaSoft, Darryl currently serves as the Chief Marketing Officer at Agorapulse, a leading social media management platform. Darryl, welcome. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your marketing journey.
I just, when I grow up, I want to be as cool as Rob, everybody. That's the first thing I want to say, okay? So that's pretty slick. Thank you, Rob. You were very gracious and generous there. Clearly, you should never believe a bio for marketers written by marketers, just, heads up. But yes, way back when, my career education, I'm a computer programmer. And that's what I went to school for. And that's what I did for 7 years. But I got tired of that. And I've had a variety of jobs over the years, from sales to marketing to product management to product marketing. And I've been very fortunate to work my way up on both rungs. I've been a VP of sales multiple times, a VP of marketing multiple times. I was a chief revenue officer for 5 years, owning sales and marketing and RevOps when I was at VanillaSoft, a sales engagement platform. Then I went back to being a chief marketing officer when I went to Agorapulse. Basically, I'm 55 years old, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I know it's going to be revenue related. Along the way, I've raised $100 million. I've been acquired multiple times. I've been bought more than once. There we go. So, and I've gone public once. So there we go.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Darryl, this semester, we are learning about the major themes of marketing. Each week, we explore various marketing terms and concepts. The overarching goal for this semester is to help these students learn how to think and talk like a marketer. As a marketing leader, you have leveraged social media to build your personal brand and that of the organizations you work for. So, given your vast experience, how would you describe the evolution of social media marketing and its importance in today's digital age?
Okay, first off, I want to complain because Rob gave me no heads up on these questions. So you're seeing this live. He's a son of a gun. Okay, the evolution of social media marketing and how it's impacting things. That's a brilliant question. Okay, where do I start? I'll try to do this really fast and short, and then you can ask me lots of questions. Social media marketing, guys, I go back to marketing before the internet was publicly available. I'm not making this up. So I've gone through the whole internet thing, and then the emergence of this company called Facebook and Twitter, now known as X. I was there for MySpace and everything else. So I've seen the rise and the fall of lots of different social media platforms. But along the way, in every single organization, especially in B2B, social media has always been an afterthought. It's always been like, yeah, we should make sure we don't have a PR disaster. So let's get the junior person to go there and monitor things. Don't let them do anything that could be controversial. They can issue, posts about a press release or something, which adds zero value, and they can do that. But that's it. And then what we saw happening just before the pandemic was the emergence of the micro and the macro influencers. So I'm not talking the Kim Kardashians of the world. I'm talking that person's got 1,000 followers or 10,000 followers, having incredible influence and people trying to follow from them and learn from them and start communities. So what you really saw was that accelerate once COVID hit, because now we couldn't go to trade shows and do the traditional networking, and we couldn't send direct mail out because nobody was at the office, right? So how do you stay connected? And that was on social, and then that was on community. And the community and the social often overlapped. Often the community was on platforms like Mighty Networks, or it could be on Slack, or it'd be in Facebook groups. It would be on WhatsApp. And those were the communities were taking place. But then what would happen is we would use those communities to amplify our message. At the same time, what happened was sales finally showed up to the game, and they realized the phone wasn't working anymore. Emails were not working because most sales reps stink at writing an email, and it just goes right to spam because of all the filters. But they can make connections on social. So you really saw that happen pre-COVID and during COVID to now social become, according to Gartner, according to LinkedIn, according to HubSpot, the #1 channel. And from a marketer's point of view, this is huge because social is essentially free. Think about what we're doing right now, right? Rob has got a small subscription. He might pay a few $100 for on an annual basis to restream, to produce this. And it's going out across all the social profiles, and all the networks are reaching that. Zero cost. So the cost of acquisition is actually through the roof. The ROMI, the return on marketing investment, through the roof. So this is brilliant. And then what you hope is all those micro and macro influencers will actually comment on it, and then all of a sudden it goes to their audience. You have the whole pyramid effect, if you will. So it's changed. The biggest thing that's changed in the last year, though, is this, which is marketers are finally realizing that we can no longer treat social, even though it's the #1 channel, like a half-assed channel. In other words, we used to talk about vanity metrics. Well, I got these many likes, I got these many follows, and I got these many shares. Therefore, what I'm doing is rocking, right? And the CFO would say, that's interesting, but how much revenue did that contribute? And they would go, well, I don't know. Whereas now they're actually measuring the social eye. They have to measure the social eye, our ROI on their social investment, so they can actually justify keeping that budget or growing that budget. So it has changed dramatically from an afterthought to now a leading channel, both by sales and marketing, as well as customer success. So it's crazy what's happened. Oh my God, that was a long-winded answer.
That's all right. So many things to pick up on from that. One of the things I heard you say, ROMI, R-O-M-I.
Yes.
Last class, as it happens, we were talking about ROAS, return on ad spend. Tell me a little bit more about ROMI, if you would, please.
So ROMI is an interesting one, right? So because ROMI, so when you're running the marketing, like for me, where I have accountability for millions of dollars in program spend, because one of the things you have to understand in any kind of organization, for the most part, right? Especially B2B or any kind of services industry, you have salaries, and then you have marketing budget, program campaign spend, and that's kind of it. So when it's a tough economy like it's been for the last year, greater scrutiny happens to that discretionary program or campaign spend, because we're not usually hitting our sales numbers because the economy is tanking. Therefore, we need to pull back our spend. So where do I look? I look at marketing. That's an easy one. Plus, I would rather cut program spend than I would lay off people, which, by the way, major universities will all tell you that's a mistake. You should actually reduce people and increase your marketing spend, but that's for another class. So when it comes out of greater scrutiny, you literally have to measure the return you're achieving on your marketing investment, your marketing spend, which would include all of your channels. It would include your ad spend, whether that be a print advertising or digital advertising, like search engine marketing, like Google Ads, for example. That would also include any of your social ads, like on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. That would include any event costs. That would include any influencers you're hiring to actually advocate on your behalf. All of your spend needs to be tracked, and you need to work backwards and say, how much pipeline did that spend generate? And ultimately, how much business did it close? And the only way you can do that, by the way, this is where people really struggle, is usually using some kind of tracking mechanism like a UTM, okay, UTM framework, where you have campaign source, campaign medium, etc. And if you're not familiar with what a UTM is, when you look at the links, you'll see that in any kind of call to action where there's a link, they'll say / question mark campaign medium equals this, question mark campaign source equals that. Those are your UTM tracks. And that way, suddenly, because I have them linked, they're tracked, I can now start measuring the impact I've had on pipeline and the impact I've had on ultimately deals that close. And it's ROMI typically is fully loaded. So it's not just your program spend, but it's also your actual staffing spend, your salaries and everything else. Even your contractors, you have to use those. So it's fully loaded because that's the actual full marketing investment. And I want to know what the return on it is. Here's where it gets really interesting. CFOs, investors, bean counters as a whole struggle with knowing what to do with that. So they want it, but you're going to go to them and you're going to say, listen, not everything can be tracked. So for a simple example, a direct lead, somebody goes to my website directly, or an organic search. They Google Darryl Praill, they find me, they click there. It's an organic search. I can't attribute that because I had no control in it. I didn't give them the link. They just Googled me, or they knew the website, agorapulse.com, and they just typed it in and went there. How did that happen? Well, it happened because they saw me here on Sales TV talking to Rob, and they said, I really like this guy. I'm going to Google him. This is what's called dark social. And dark social can't be measured, at least not easily. There's ways around that. If you want to, we can explore that. So ultimately, how you get around that Romy aspect is you have to kind of say, listen, a percentage of my budget I can never measure. Dark social, 25%, 40%, whatever you negotiate. The rest I can measure. Or another way to go around that is to say, hold me accountable for my Romy on a cost per meeting, fully loaded. So, if I have $1 million budget and I drive, make this really simple. I drive 1 million in sales inquiries, then that was a cost of $1 per meeting. So that's really simple math. That'll never happen, but you get the idea. So you want to negotiate these with the bean counters so that so then Romy has contacts. Otherwise, it becomes a he said, she said on Romy, and that's where marketers really struggle. One thing you'll hear me is you listen to me talk. I had an accounting course, one course when I went to school, just one. I failed it. And yet you'll look at me now, and like every TLA, 3-letter acronym out of my mouth is all about ROI, or, LTV, lifetime value, or ARR, annual recurring revenue, or what have you. So as a strong marketer, if you really want to be successful, learn the basics of those marketing metrics that the financial people care about, and you will rise much faster in your career than anybody else, because they understand that you recognize it's just not about being cool or being on video or being on stage, but actually about generating ROI, generating a return on your marketing investment.
I think we both long for the day where it was just easier to not have all of these metrics, not have all of these metrics.
I miss those days.
So these students grew up as digital natives, and they're generally prolific social media users, but they don't necessarily understand how social media marketing for business is different from the personal use of social media. In your opinion, well, first of all, I don't want to presume, I guess in your opinion, is it different? And if so, how is it different?
So the core skills are the same, right? Whether I'm posting a great, reel on Instagram, or I'm building a killer meme, I'm sharing it, and I'm starting conversations, those core skills are the same. The difference is when it comes to business and social media is I'll state some really obvious things, but trust me, as much as I think it's obvious, it's amazing how many people don't get this. What matters is that you're advocating for the company. You're not advocating for yourself. This is not about your ego and your presence. This is about the company. So you're a representative of the company. You're an evangelist. You're a spokesperson. So you are actually not just trying to make cool, funny posts. That's interesting. That's like 10% of your, scheduled output. You're trying to educate. You're trying to engage. So for example, we just talked about Romy. A series of posts on what Romy is or isn't, and how you present it to the community, to the financial bean counters, how you can measure it. Here's some sample templates you can use. Here's some frameworks. Here's a video interview. Here's what an investor says about Romy. Here's how it impacts your career. All these little, rich pieces of content that add value, that educate and spark discussion and spark debate are what's different from what you do on your own personal life. In your own personal life, you're talking about the latest sports score. You're talking about you went out last night. Again, that's 10%. The rest is all content, all education. And the other part you have to understand is and I mentioned this already, it's really not about you, although ironically, you are the face of the company and we want you out there. Be visible. But you're actually going to be more visible most of the time, not on our company feeds, because most people don't follow company feeds, and that's changing a little bit. But think about yourself. Do you follow the Salesforce.com feed? Do you follow the Restream feed? No, you probably don't. But you do follow Rob. You probably follow other influencers in the space. So what you want to do is you want to get busy in their posts in the comments. And when you're adding value or sparking discussion respectfully about shared knowledge, again, sharing that same research and content that you already previously crafted and shared in the comments, that draws people to you. And that's now dark social, because now they say, hey, Rob made a killer comment there on Darryl's post. Who is this Rob guy? Let me Google him. Oh, that's really cool. Sales TV, never heard of that. Let me Google that. Oh, I got to sign up for this. That's the comments. All right. That's where the discussions take place. So I'm not sure I answered your question, but it's not about being funny. It's not about you sharing. That's 10%. It's really about education and great killer content and being busy in the comments from the community.
So 10% personal sports scores, things of interest. And then you also mentioned, for example, information about roaming or whatever, general information. None of that was, hey, buy my stuff.
Oh, do you see what he did there, folks? He slowly, he walked me discreetly to what he wanted me to talk about without doing it. Isn't that incredible? That's the gifted communicator right there. No, you nailed it. It's not about buy my stuff. It's people will, see, here's the thing at the end of the day. You're an expert on your stuff. That's the premise, right? And so when you're sharing content, Romy, and you're in the comments, or you're sharing cool templates, or you're voicing an opinion that sparks more discussion, people gravitate towards you because they've got a problem that you can help them with. I was just asked to do Romy, and I don't know what to do Romy is. Who can help me in Romy? Oh, look, Darryl's talking about Romy. Let me look at his stuff. Oh, I really like this. And then what happens is they go to the website and like, oh, he's got a Romy newsletter. I have to sign up for $20 for the year. That's easy. I'll do that. Here, take my money, right? And boom, that's it. So the selling is implicit. It's not explicit. Now, periodically, if you share enough content, say if 4 to 5 posts are education, then the community is really gracious and is willing to say, okay, for the other, 1 out of 5 posts, hit the 20%. You can self-promote. We get it. You have a job. You have to get paid. And you know what? I actually might be interested in what you're self-promoting, so it's all cool. So as long as you don't abuse it, then you're fine. But you're right. Yeah, it's not the whole, what we call the nonstop pitch slapping. People tune out and they unsubscribe and they turn off and they unfollow. Don't pitch slap. The worst example of this, you probably all get it all the time, is you'll get a message from a complete stranger on LinkedIn. And it'll be, hey, Darryl, my company sells leads. Well, is it worth $100 a month for you to have 10 leads? And I'm like, I'm sorry, who are you? Why do I care? Do I know you? Do I trust you? You're an idiot. Block. So don't pitch slap.
There we go. So we were speaking a little bit about Northeastern before we went live. You may or may not know, Northeastern is known for its co-ops. And as marketers, a lot of companies will be calling on these students to help them run the social media channels. If you were in their shoes, what's the first thing that you would do in that role?
Okay. So first thing I would do in that role, and I would do this in any role, but then I'll get more specific on the social side, is I would say, how are we measuring success? How will you determine if I have achieved my goal? If I was worth the salary, or I was worth the time investment? How are we measuring that success? So for example, in social, they might say, well, listen, you're doing one original piece of content a week, and you're doing 5 posts a day, and you're growing our followers by 5% every single month. I don't know. Do that, and we'll love you. So that's the first, how success being measured. But then the next thing I would start to say, okay, great. What's your objective with this, and they're going to say, well, grow followers, and you're going to say, well, that's an outcome. You're going to grow followers to achieve what? Oh, more leads. Okay. So our objective here is to grow more, new business opportunities. Yes. How do you measure that today? How will you know that what I did? So you're starting to understand. Again, I'm slowly working backwards to how I'm going to be successful, right? So what's your objective? And then the last thing I would do, because now you know your objective. You know what they secretly want, because it's amazing. They'll tell you, I want you to grow followers. And then when you don't hit a revenue target because of your efforts, they'll blame you, even though you might hit your followers. Whereas from the beginning, if you'd have said, well, why are we doing this? Well, it's to grow, sales. Well, how many new sales? What's the math? Help me understand. What can I do to always monitor that and increase the volume or whatnot? So you want to do that. The last thing I would say is go to them and say, okay, who are 3 or more individuals in your space who you think represent best in class? What about them do you like? What would you like me to incorporate into my activities? And conversely, I would say, based on my predecessors, based on what you've done in the past, what are mistakes you want me to avoid? Once you've done all of that, boom, you're saying, great, I got it. If I have any questions, I'll let you know. In the meantime, point me to the nearest content creator so I can start going through it all and getting tidbits and making myself sound brilliant.
Fantastic. And what you just mapped out there was also their interview process.
Yes.
No reason you have to wait until you got the job to ask those questions.
So, funny story. I mentioned, I think we were in the green room before we went live. I mentioned that my daughter kind of followed me into the same general line of work. And she was interviewing. And just before this call, just before we started here today, she called me to tell me that she's accepted a new job, which was fun because she's been looking for a few months. She has a great job now. She's good, but she needs, she's looking to grow her career and new opportunities. And when she was going through this interview, I said to her, so, when you're having the interview tomorrow at 1:00, what are you going to ask? Remember, this is as much about you interviewing them as them interviewing you. So you don't just answer questions. What are you going to ask them? And ultimately, it was exactly what you just said. Everything we just talked about here, those are the questions you ask them. How will I be successful? How will I be measured? Etc. The only other thing I would ask you is, and we haven't even talked about this. This is across the board. With age, I know more and more and more, and appreciate this more and more and more, that the biggest indicator of success for you at an organization isn't the job or the role, because I'm going to assume you're going to approach it brilliantly, like we're talking about now. It's the company culture. If that culture doesn't line up with you and what you're about, for example, let's say the company culture is we're going to work 18 hours a day and we're going to message you after hours at all time. You're supposed to be responsive. You're never offline. And that works for some people. Great. But if it doesn't work for you, that's not for you. And you're just going to be miserable. So even though they offer you great money and it's a dream job, don't go there, because you're going to be quitting within 6 months. Guarantee it. So ask about the culture. That's the other thing I would do in the interview, and force them to be specific.
Right. We're coming close to the input. I did want to get your input on this. And by the way, students, if you have questions as well, please let me know. For students looking to break into the marketing industry, what advice would you give them for harnessing the power of social media to kickstart their own careers?
So I asked this question. Actually, it's funny. I love going to career fairs where we have graduating students, and I do this on a regular basis. And I just walk up to them and I say, so you're graduating, you're going to go? Yeah, it's great. Awesome. What's your plan? What do you mean? To get a job. What's your plan? What are you doing? I'm going to apply. How? I'm going to look for jobs on, LinkedIn and other places. I'm going to send my resume. I'm like, you're screwed. You're never going to be hired. Just give up now. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, because you're a marketer. Market yourself. Otherwise, you're like every freaking other person out there. All right. So I'll give an example. And this is what I would suggest do something, not unlike what I just did, what I'm going to share. Many years ago, 2006, had just been acquired, made lots of money for the investors. And the number one reason they acquired us was because we were kicking their ass. They were the number one player in the space, and they loved the management team. Life is great. A month later, guess what? The whole management team that just got acquired got shot, including me. And for the first time in my life, I'm sitting there going, I don't have a job. What do I do? Because I'd always had recruiters come to me and offer me jobs. And what I did was I said, okay, I'm a marketer. Let's market me. So first thing I did was I created a website. I created a personalized email address so they understood who I was. I bought a book called How to Write a Killer LinkedIn Profile. I'm not making this up, $10, ebooks. And I spent a couple hours, 4 hours, I think, completely overhauling my LinkedIn profile, which drove way more LinkedIn recruiters because now I knew how to, keyword stuff and make yourself look better than the rest. I then identified a top list of, say, in my case, I called my network and I said, who's hiring, good places to work, got lots of money. I got a list of 11 companies in my city, just 11. Fine. I identified everybody of influence, the CEO, the head of finance, the CFO, head of sales, head of marketing, whatever. And then I created custom boxes of 6x8 square boxes. There's a multidimensional mailer. In it, I had a photo. I taken a picture of me in a blank piece of paper. Then I went into Paint in those days, and I typed in, for a good time, call Darryl. No, I didn't actually, but I said, I can help ABC Inc. overcome their churn problem. Go to darrylpraill.com/ABC. And then I put that with, and then the call to action was, let's meet for coffee to discuss. And I put in a Starbucks empty cup. I had to go buy a ream from Starbucks. They wouldn't sell them to me. I gave them $20 for a ream in those days. And they said, okay. And I said, I'll donate this to whatever you want me to. They said, done. Here we go. I bought coupons for like a free coffee. So the coffee cup, the actual coupon, the photo in the cup, in a 6x6 box, sent it on FedEx. Now I can actually track it. And I know what every single tracking number was to every single person, 2-day delivery, because, I'm cheap. And then what I did was every single one of those had a unique landing page inside. So I sat back and I waited until the landing page counter went ding, +1. And I immediately picked up the phone. This is crazy, kids. Picking up the phone, mind-blowing. And I called them and I said, it's Darryl. Now, one of the things I skipped about, why did I do a 6-inch square box? Because when people were in the office, they would, people would bring a FedEx envelope to you and say, here you go. And they'd leave. But a box, they bring it to you and they go, oh, what's inside the box? Is it something free? And they sit and watch. That was great when you have gatekeepers. So I did this. Of those 11, I had 7 interviews with CEOs. Of those, I had 3 job offers. What did I do? I marketed myself. My website had all my content, videos they could watch, everything else, which I could track. I had a unique call to action that I can measure. I used multiple channels and I did it in real time. And I was out of work. So there you go. Be a marketer. Have fun with it. Social media, do everything I just said, but now go follow them on LinkedIn. Send them. Crazy thing. You know what you can do on LinkedIn that works all the time? Once you connect with somebody, make a video and send it to them on the video. Just checking to see if you got that box I sent you. It's got some killer goodies in it. I hope you're a fan of Starbucks. Boom. They will watch it. Guaranteed you. And so all these are things they go, oh my goodness, this person understands the medium. They understand how to attack the customer because they're attacking me right now like nobody else has. Market yourselves because you know what? You're marketers.
Wow. In 3 minutes, you just gave a masterclass on finding your next marketing job. Thank you.
Anytime.
Darryl, this has been great. How can students follow up with you?
LinkedIn's fastest way. LinkedIn.com/in/Darryl Praill. Or you can do Google, which will lead you to an organic search result, which is dark social, and I can't measure it, but you'll find me. Or you could go direct, DarrylPraill.com, which I still won't be able to measure you, but at least I'll know where you came from, what browser you're using. It's crazy.
Awesome. Darryl, students, audience, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic show. And until next time, this has been Sales TV, the marketing edition. Again, Darryl, thank you very much for joining us.
Students. Anytime, guys.